Hello and welcome once again to the hard Brexit scenario on Football Manager 2020, where the UK has left UEFA and left to fend for itself and, creating its own Champions League and new league system and all that stuff. And what we're going to do today, as we are in between seasons, we're in between the fourth and the fifth season, it's August 2023, we're going to normally we have a international tournament to look at and enjoy, but on this edition the only tournaments are the African Nations Cup and the CONCACAF Gold Cup and the Confederations Cup, and we are going to have a look at them. We're just going to have a quick look at them because they're not necessarily something affected properly by the scenario. So instead, what we're going to do is call this a legacy edition, and we're going to see the legacies of all the tournaments that we're having so far, starting with the Club World Cup. What we're going to do is have a look and see who's won it for the past 4 years and see if there's any trends, stuff like that. So if we go to the Brexit Champions League, spoiler there for the draw for the next one, we'll have a look at that in the next edition. But we can see here previous winners. It's been a nice open tournament with different teams winning it each year. Man City the opening winners, Man United the second winners, Chelsea did it in the third season, and this season the surprising one, AFC Bournemouth, where they beat Norwich in the final. The runners up have been a bit more varied as well. Chelsea in the opening season, Newcastle, Southampton, Norwich. Interesting times. What about the Empire League, the second tier of continental football for the Brexit scenario? And it's the big teams have been winning it. Tottenham, Man City, Man United, with again varied runners up. We had the same final 2 years in a row, if you remember. We had Wolves, Everton, Chelsea, the runners up. So it's been open. The tournaments have been open. They've been interesting, especially since the money started piling in and different teams started doing well. In the Cup Winners' Cup, obviously this is just open to Cup winners, FA Cup winners, and the leasing.com trophy, just to even out the numbers. In the first season there was one of the competitions didn't have a winner, so Liverpool got to have a place in there too. Man City have won it 3 of the 4 seasons, with this one blip here where Norwich won the FA Cup and Celtic beat Norwich in the final on penalties, but other than that it's been Man City over Liverpool, Man City over Ballymena, and Man City over Kilmarnock. What about in actual European football? The real thing, the Champions League. How's that been going? Well, we can see here that Juventus, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, it's been pretty samey. The same teams doing well. The finalists, Bayern Munich, Barcelona, Atletico Madrid and Juventus. So Bayern Munich and Juventus have played in the final twice. They played each other in 2020 and in 2023. And we had one match at the Rheinpark Stadion in Vaduz, Liechtenstein, which I just love seeing, that tiny little stadium hosting the Champions League final. In the Europa League, it's been all Italy, with 5 of the 8 finalists being from Italy, although Roma have done it twice and AC Milan have done it twice. But Roma won it, beating Wolfsburg. Lazio beat Roma in a Rome derby in the final. AC Milan beat Valencia and AC Milan beat Athletic Bilbao. So there's been some interesting results, but it's mainly been the Italian Cup. And we had a final in San Marino as well, which I got another one with a tiny stadium hosting a final. In the Europa Conference League, obviously this is the first ever season, there's no previous winners, and it's been a bit more varied. Inter Milan won the opening season, then we had Anderlecht, Köln, Deportivo La Coruña, and this is helped by the fact there's only one team from each country, or for each of the big countries entering. The little countries, the smaller countries get 2 entrants, and it's just a much more open competition. It's a bit more enjoyable, and it's the lower tier, so you get the lowest tiered team from each country. Deportivo, Köln, they are apparently Inter Milan as well. But yeah, it's a fun little tournament. It clearly it shows. What about the Club World Cup, when we mesh those 2 worlds together, and we can see that their legacy has mainly English winners. 3 of the 4 seasons we've had so far have been won by English teams. Liverpool beating Chelsea in the opening season in Portugal. Then Man City beating Bayern Munich in North Macedonia. Real Madrid beat River Plate in Hungary to stop the trend a little. But then another English team won it in 2022 as Chelsea beat AC Milan in the final in Japan. This year in Egypt, who's going to win? Well, we're going to have Juventus, AC Milan, Bayern Munich and Bournemouth. Those ones we know. plus the rest of the world, who knows? We could be seeing someone different win it. More likely, in fact, judging from who's in it, maybe we could see Bournemouth do it. Right, if we have a look at, let's go with Wales. We're going to skip Northern Ireland. Apologies to the Northern Irish fans, if there are any, but they're probably not as important. Again, half the Welsh ones aren't important even, but we're going to go through all of them anyway. Dyfed, Wrexham have won it every year. Ruffin and Connors Quay have 2 runners-up spots each. Haverfordwest, Abereren and Penryncock. So this is the only really open one in Wales, where anyone in the top division can win it. Like when we started, the 2 best, like these ones, those 3 for 2018-19, those were put there by reputation. Aberystwyth have the highest reputation in Dyfed, Llanelli the second highest, and neither of those teams have won the league in the 4 years we've been going. Penryncock, Abereren twice, Haverfordwest. They've become runners up, but they've never actually won it. So, and there's Carmarthen as well, who are also a League of Wales team too, or Welsh Premier, and they haven't won it. So this is possibly the most interesting one out of all of the Welsh divisions. Unlike Gwent, where Newport County have been bossing it for 4 years running, Undy have been bossing runners-up position, mainly with Cumbria and Celtic sneaking it in 2021, but Undy, the second best team in Gwent, clearly. Gwynedd, Bangor City and Bala, first and second 4 years in a row. Carnarvon have done it for the past 3 seasons as well. While in Miglamorgan, Merthyr Town have been first for 4 seasons running as well. The runners-up have been different every year, though, with Aberdare, Pontypridd, Penybont and Cerral all getting second spot. Powys, Newtown have won it every season. Again, runners-up have been a bit different, with Clonraida, Guilsfield and Waterloo Rovers all doing it. South Glamorgan, Cardiff, obviously they were going to win it each year. Barry Town have cemented themselves as the second best team in South Glamorgan, except for that one season when Llanwit Major made it and pushed Barry into third place. West Glamorgan, Swansea, they've won it every year, with Port Talbot and Neath both getting 2 second place finishes each. Neath the current runners up. And now if we'll just skip through the championship, pause if you want to see these ones. We'll go through league or division 1, sorry, and I believe there's a division 2 as well, and then there's the 2 Clwyd extra ones. In the Welsh Cup, I've gone too far. In the Welsh Cup, at the Cardiff City Stadium each time, and Cardiff and Swansea have both won it twice. It's been dominated by the bigger teams. Only 2 of the 8 finalists have not been originally playing in the English League system. So Swansea Wrexham in the first one, Cardiff Newport in the second, and then we finally got someone else making the final at least. Cardiff beating Barry, and then the latest one, Swansea beating Airbus UK. But for the time being, it's the bigger teams dominating. Maybe, hopefully, one day, one of the smaller teams can overtake and maybe win the trophy, get their passage to the Club World Cup. In the Clwyd League Cup, it's been Wrexham, and then Rill did it this season. We got a different winner. So someone has stepped up and broken Wrexham's monopoly in the tournament. Dyfed, it's just like in the Dyfed League, the Dyfed League Cup is open, with Penryncock doing it twice, Borth and Bont both making it. And Borth have been relegated since then, I believe. So it just shows that anyone can win this competition. Gwent, Newport County have won it every year with a different finalist each time. And Gwynedd, Bangor City have won 3 of them, with Bala sneaking one against Bangor City in the final in 2022. Miglamorgan, Merthyr Town have done it each season, apart from the latest one where Cerral overtook them in the final at the Brewery Field in Bridgend, forcing Merthyr to take a runners-up position for the first time in this competition. In Powys, another open one. Newtown won it the first season, but then they haven't made the final since. Guilsfield won it in 2021, and Clonraida have won it for the last 2 seasons. In fact, Clonraida have made the final for the last 3 seasons. So it's pretty good for them. South Glamorgan, Cardiff and Barry have been in the final every season so far, and Cardiff have won it every season so far, and everyone has been played at the Millennium Stadium, which is a nice day out for both teams. In West Glamorgan, it's the same situation as Cardiff. Swansea have won it every single time, and they've had 3 different opponents in those finals, but I don't think they've had much difficulty in winning it. Right, Scotland. We'll take a look at how that one's getting on, or how that has got on over the years. So in Scotland, the Angus Premiership, Dundee, and then a break through. Dundee United moved up from second into first place, and yes, changed everything. Possibly, you never know. Next season, it could be the start. This could have been the start of Dundee United's dominance instead. Angus, Kilmarnock, and Ayr have been dominating first and second. In that order, though. Ayr have not touched first place yet. In Central Scotland, Falkirk have won 3 of the 4 seasons, but Alloa Athletic did take that one in 2022 to give themselves a debut season in the Brexit Champions League, although they've given up that place this season. Stirling and Stenhousemuir both with 2 third-place finishes each. Dumfries and Galloway, Queen of the South, have won it every season. Stranraer have come second every season. And Athletic have pretty much come third every season, apart from one where they let Dalbeattie star in. In Fife, it's Dunfermline each year. Raith have been pretty much perennial second place team, except for one season when East Fife made it through. In Glasgow, Rangers won it that first season, but since then it's been Celtic all the way, with Rangers taking second spot instead. Partick and Dumbarton have been sharing that third place thing. Not fairly, though, because Partick have 3 to Dumbarton's 1. Grampian, Aberdeen, first place every time. Peterhead, second place every time. Elgin, third place almost every time. Highlands and Islands, a similar situation here. Ross County always first. Inverness, Caledonian Thistle always second. Broyle Rangers always third. And in Lanarkshire, Motherwell have been champions for each season. Hamilton were runners-up for 3 of them, but have recently let go and allowed Airdrie United to finish in second and take the Empire League spot for the first time. In Lothian, the Edinburgh Derby has been pretty much the title derby, with Hibs coming first 3 seasons and Hearts won it. Hearts for one of the seasons in 2021, and then the other team would then finish in runners-up spot. Livingston have been third every season. While in Perthshire, this one was obvious. St Johnstone have been top each time because they're the only big team in Perthshire. Kinnoul have finished second 3 times. Ginfield Swift taking it the other time, and whoever didn't finish second finished third. Renfrewshire, this one has a playoff which allowed Morton to take one of those on penalties. They beat St Mirren in the first season in the final, but since then St Mirren have won it every year and Morton have come second every year in the playoff final. Scottish Borders, Vale of Leven opened it with a win, but since then Gala Ferrydean Rovers have dominated, taking the top spot for the last 3 years, pushing Vale of Leven into second place. We'll skip through the lower divisions. Again, pause it if you'd like to see it. There we go. The Scottish Cup, it started off with some Celtic dominance in 2020 and 2021, but since then they've dropped out of the competition a bit earlier and allowed some of the smaller teams to make the final. So in 2022, Kilmarnock beat Ross County. In 2023, St Mirren beat Peterhead. It was some interesting times. But yeah, and we've got interesting teams making the Cup Winners' Cup. Angus League Cup, Dundee have smashed it every season with a different opponent each time. Ayrshire, Kilmarnock have done the same, winning it every season with Ayr, Beef and Irvine Meadow, their victims in the final match. Central Scotland, we had Falkirk winning it the first 2 seasons, and then Alloa Athletic broke through and ended that dominance the same season they won the league. But just like that season, or just like Alloa, Falkirk did the double when they won it back the season later. Stenhousemuir making the final 3 times in those 4 years. Dumfries and Galloway, Annan Athletic won the first one, beating Gretna 2008 in the final, but since then the big team in Dumfries and Galloway, Queen of the South, have won it every other season. Fife League Cup, Dunfermline champions 4 years in a row. Kelty Hearts made the final for 2 of those years, but they weren't able to make any breakthrough, and Dunfermline have done it. In Glasgow, 2 each for Celtic and Rangers. The first 2 for Celtic, the second 2 for Rangers. And Celtic have made the final every single year, losing the last 2 to Rangers. The first 2 seasons, we had BSC Glasgow and Partick Thistle making the final. Grampian, Aberdeen have won it each season, with most of the time a different team in each final. While in the Highlands and Islands League Cup, Inverness, Caledonian and Thistle and Ross County have both shared 2 trophies apiece there, with Fort William making the final twice, which is A bit of a surprise considering how crap they are in real life. Lanarkshire, Motherwell won the first 3, but Hamilton broke their monopoly in the latest season, beating East Kilbride in the final. Lothian, Hearts, it's in a swap of how it went in the league. Hearts have won this one 3 times, with Hibernian only winning that once. Hearts have been in the final every single season. Hibs have been in 3 of them. The only team outside of the Edinburgh Derby was Livingston in the final in the first season. And in Perthshire, again, obviously, St Johnstone being the only big team there, they've won it every year, with Kinnoul, Scone Thistle and Genefield Swift all having final defeats. In Renfrewshire, we have St Mirren winning it every season. Morton have been runners-up every season, apart from the opening one, where Port Glasgow did it. And in the Scottish Borders League Cup, Garla Ferradine Rovers won the first 3, but allowed Vale of Leven to win it this season, beating Garla Ferradine in the final. Finally, in Scotland, the Tunnocks Caramel Wafer Challenge Cup for lower league teams. Initially, it had a couple of big wins for Preston Athletic, who won it in 2020 and 2021, but Colville Park, beat them in the 3rd season, and Arniston did it in the 4th season. So it's 15 minutes of fame for you teams. Right, over to England, and how have theirs gone? These ones, I imagine we're going to see a bit of a trend of the same teams winning it over and over again, such as in Bedfordshire, where Luton have done it every season. Barton Rovers and Leighton both with 2 runners-up spots each. While in Berkshire, Reading first every year, and Maidenhead 2nd every year. Bristol and Gloucestershire. Bristol City have won it each time, but they've had 2 different teams come runners-up to them, with Forest Green doing it in the first season and the latest season, and Bristol Rovers in the 2 seasons between those. And then we have in Buckinghamshire. This one was between 2 teams, and it has been for the first 4 years. Wickham and MK Dons both with 2 winners' positions and 2 runners-up positions over the season. Chesham, 3 third-place positions for them. Cambridgeshire, Peterborough have won it each year. Cambridgeshire have been runners-up for 3 of those years, but as we know from a couple of episodes ago, Peterborough Northern Star have taken the runners-up spot in the last season, meaning they'll be entering the Empire League for the first ever time, and well done to them, because it's good to see. It's good to have someone else make it through. In Cheshire, Crewe have won it each season, with Macclesfield coming 2nd each season and Chester coming 3rd each season. While in Cornwall, it's been the Truro Show. They've done that 4 seasons in a row, with Godolphin and Bodmin both with 2 runners-up spots between them. In Cumbria, Carlisle won the opening season, Barrow won the 2nd season. Barrow dominated the 3rd season with a massive gap, but Carlisle came back as soon as they sacked Tim Sherwood, basically. And Carlisle and Barrow both with 2 runners-up spots each as well. Derbyshire, Derby have won it each year. Chesterfield have come 2nd each year. Alfreton 3rd each year. Devon, Plymouth are perennial champions there, with Torquay and Exeter sharing 2nd spot and 3rd spot between them. In Dorset, Bournemouth champions each year. Weymouth have done it have come 2nd most of the time, with Dorchester stealing 1 in the 1st season. Durham, we had Hartlepool winning 3 of them, with 1 exception in 2022 when Darlington overtook them. Interesting runner-up as well in 2021, with Stockton sneaking it. Darlington nowhere to be seen apparently there. In Essex, Colchester opened it with a win, but has since let Southend take the title each other season, settling for runners-up spots instead. Greater London, nice open one between 3 teams mainly, of Spurs opening it with a win. Chelsea took the title in 2021. Arsenal took it back in 2022, and then Chelsea took it back to them in 2023. Both Arsenal and Chelsea having very similar seasons over the last 2 years. Greater Manchester, Man U did the first 2, Man City did the second 2. That's pretty much it in Greater Manchester. The best of the rest has been won by Wigan, Bolton and Oldham over the years. Hampshire and the Isle of Wight, it's another one where it's the same teams in the same positions. Southampton 1st for 4 seasons running, Portsmouth 2nd for 4 seasons running, Eastleigh 3rd for 4 seasons running. Herefordshire, Hereford have done it for the past 4 years. Westfields were runners-up for the first 3 seasons, but have since been overtaken by Pegasus Juniors, making their first Empire League season next season. In Hertfordshire, Watford, Stevenage, Boreham Wood, all has been the 1, 2, 3 for the first 4 years. while in Kent, Gillingham, Ebbsfleet's over has been the 1, 2, 3 for the first 4 years. Lancashire, this one was a bit more open, or at least it felt like it at the time. Blackburn and Burnley, both with 2 titles apiece, with Preston coming third each season. Leicestershire and Rutland, Leicester, they were obviously going to win each time. Colville and Barwell, both with 2 runners-up positions each. Lincolnshire and Lincoln City have done it each season. One season it wasn't looking likely, but eventually they did it. Scunthorpe with 3 runners-up spots to Grimsby's 1. And in Merseyside, Liverpool, only 3 titles. They missed out on 1 in 2022 when Everton won that extra one. So 3 for Liverpool, 1 for Everton, and a runners-up spot for Liverpool as well. Southport breaking Tranmere's monopoly on 3rd place last season. Norfolk, we have 4 Norfolk Premier League titles for Norwich, 3 runners-up spots for Kings Lynn, and a single runners-up spot for Galston. While in Northamptonshire, Northampton have won it each year. Brackley have been runners-up for the last 3, but Kettering did get the original one. Northumberland, Tweedmouth have been the big team there. They've taken 3 of the 4 titles, apart from in 2021, when Morpeth overtook them to take the title. Blythe have been runners-up for each of the other seasons, apart from the one when Tweedmouth didn't win. Nottinghamshire, Nottingham Forest were the expected team to have monopoly, but they did let go of 1 title in 2022 when Mansfield beat them to it. Notts County Notts County are 3rd in every season so far. Oxfordshire, we've got Oxford winning that one each year. Thame and Oxford City both with 2 runners-up spots each. In Shropshire, it's been Shrewsbury all the way. TNS taking 3 of the runners-up spots and 1 for AFC Telford. Somerset, Yeovil are champions each season, with Paulton Rovers mainly taking the runners-up position. Bath inserting themselves in that 2nd spot in 2021, but other than that, it's been Paulton each time. In Staffordshire, Stoke have won it each season, Burton have come 2nd each time, and Port Vale have been 3rd each time. The most exciting one being that first season when Stoke did it on goal difference, when both teams had 117 points. Suffolk, Ipswich champions each season. Runners-up have been different each time, with Leicester, Lowestoft, Bury Town and Needham Market all getting a runners-up position respectively. Surrey, Woking have done it each time. Staines and Dorking trading the runners-up positions. Sussex Premier Division, Brighton top, Crawley 2nd. That's the same each season. Different third place team each time, with 3 different teams getting 3rd place. Tyne and Wear, Newcastle, Sunderland, Gateshead, 1, 2, 3 for 4 seasons running. Warwickshire, now obviously, as we can see from how it was initially set up for teams to go into the Champions League and Empire League, Nuneaton were the team with the highest reputation and Leamington 2nd. Well, Stratford pissed all over that, didn't they? Coming first for all 4 seasons. Nuneaton were runners-up for the first 2, and Leamington have been runners-up for the next 2. So, bit different, not quite what we were expecting, but now we know what to expect next season. West Midlands, they've been quite open, with Wolves winning it in 2020, West Brom in 2021, Aston Villa in 2022, and West Brom winning it once again in 2023. And those teams being in the mix for 2nd and 3rd as well. Birmingham also getting a couple of 3rd places in 2020 and 2023. In Wiltshire, Swindon have done it each time, with Swindon, Supermarine and Salisbury taking some runners-up positions. Worcestershire, Kidderminster, perennial winners there. Redditch and Overchurch with 2 runners-up spots each. And in Yorkshire, Leeds have been the dominant force there. 3 of the 4 championships have gone to them. Huddersfield taking it in 2022, pushing Leeds down to 3rd that season. Huddersfield were the original runners-up for the first 2 years. Then we had Sheffield United and Barnsley taking it. We're going to skip through the lower divisions, although I might stop for Greater London because theirs is a bit interesting, with Kingstonian, the original champions, Bromley, Leyton Orient and Sutton United all taking the top spots. Barnet also getting some promotion. Met Police as well. Nice. We'll skip through the rest of these. Pause if you want to see who has taken the trophies in those ones. And there we go, almost there. FA Cup, I would say it's been open, but it hasn't. Man City won it the first year. Didn't win it the second year because Norwich were champions then. Then they got it back in 2022, and Man United stopped their monopoly of after they won 3 of the last 4, if you include real life, against Watford in 2019. So Man U beating Leicester in the latest FA Cup final. In the League Cups, Bedfordshire, Luton have won it every year with a different finalist each season. Berkshire, Reading have won it each season with 3 different finalists in their ones. Bristol and Gloucestershire, it's been a bit different. Bristol City won the first 2, but then Forest Green beat Bristol City in the final in 2022, and then everything went out the window when Cirencester did it in 2023. We also had Buckinghamshire, where MK Dons opened it with a win, but have allowed Wickham to take the trophy for the past 3 seasons. Cambridgeshire, Cambridge and Peterborough both sharing the trophies, taking turns to win it. While in Cheshire, Macclesfield have 3 titles to their name, and Crewe won it in 2022 to break it up a bit. Cornwall, Truro are the League Cup winners each season with a different finalist each time. While in Cumbria, it's Barrow and Carlisle both taking turns with that one to win it. Carlisle being the latest team, beating Penrith in the final. Derbyshire and Derby won the first 3, but lost the latest one to Alfreton Town in the final in 2023. Devon and Torquay opened the show with a victory in 2020, but since then, the losing finalists in 2020, Plymouth, have won the tournament each time. Dorset, Bournemouth, 4-time winners, different finalists each season. Durham, Hartlepool have won it 3 times, with Stockton breaking it up in 2021 when they beat Thornaby in the final. Essex has been a very open one to start with anyway, with Southend in 2020, Colchester in 2021, and Chelmsford have won it for the last 2 seasons running. Greater London, Chelsea dominating it. 4 out of 4 for them. 2 wins over Spurs, 1 against Arsenal and 1 against Fulham. Greater Manchester, Man City and Man U, 2 apiece in the League Cups. Only Oldham breaking the monopoly of making the final. Outside of the big 2 in Manchester. In Hampshire and the Isle of Wight, it's 2 apiece for Southampton and Portsmouth as well, with a different losing finalist each season. Hertfordshire, Watford have won it 4 times, beating Stevenage in the last 3, and in the opening season, beating London Colney, who were a second-tier team, if I remember rightly. In Kent, Gillingham won the first 2, but then haven't made the final since, with Dover winning it in 2022 and Maidstone in 2023. Lancashire has seen Burnley win 3 of them, only losing the tournament to Fleetwood in 2022. They haven't made the final. They didn't make the final that season either. So I don't know who they lost to. Leicestershire has been won by Leicester each time, a different finalist each season. In Lincolnshire, Grimsby have not had much luck in there, losing 3 of the finals and not winning any of them. And Scunthorpe and Lincoln both with 2 titles between them. Merseyside and Liverpool and Everton have both won 2 each. Liverpool won the first 2, Everton have won the next 2, and Liverpool didn't make the final for the first time in the last season, which isn't good for them. In Norfolk, Norwich are the champions each time, with a varied amount of teams in the final. I've skipped Northamptonshire there. In Northamptonshire, Northampton have won it each season with a different losing finalist each season. Nottinghamshire, Nottingham Forest won the first 3, but lost the latest one in the final against Notts County. While in Oxfordshire, we've had the same final each season with the same outcome, Oxford beating Oxford City in the final. In Shropshire, Shrewsbury have been in the final for all 4 seasons. In fact, we had the same final for the first 3 seasons, with Shrewsbury beating TNS for the first 2 and then allowing TNS to win it in the next one, while the latest one has seen Shrewsbury beat Market Drayton in the final. Somerset, we've got Frome, Larkhall, Poulton and Yeovil, different winner each season, which is nice and open. And in Staffordshire, Stoke have won it 3 times with 1 victory for Tamworth, breaking it up in 2022. Suffolk, 3 different winners there, with Ipswich winning it in 2020 and 2023, but in between that, Lowestoft did it in 2021 and Needham Market in 2022. In Surrey, Woking have won it each season with a different finalist each year. Brighton have done the same thing in Sussex with a different finalist each season, and 3 of them at Wembley. Nice days out at the big National Stadium. Tyne and Wear, Newcastle champions each time, with 2 finals against North Shields, 1 against Gateshead, 1 against Hebburn. No final place for Sunderland ever. Warwickshire and Stratford and Leamington have made the final each season, and have been taking turns at who's winning it. So first Stratford, second Leamington, third Stratford, latest season Leamington. So it's Stratford's turn next season, and as far as I'm aware, they are both in different groups again for the tournament. West Midlands, and it's been Wolves twice, Birmingham in 2021 and West Brom in 2023 in the finals, or winning the finals to be more precise. Wiltshire's been a bit weird with Swindon Swindon, they're the big team in Wiltshire, and they've only made the final once, winning it in 2020. But since then, Swindon Supermarine have done it twice, and Salisbury doing it in the latest season, beating Royal Wootton Bassett in the final. Worcestershire Kidderminster have won it for all 4 times, beating Alvechurch and Redditch twice each. And in Yorkshire, Huddersfield won it the first 3 years, but have not won it in the latest one, as losing finalists for 2 of them, Leeds, finally winning the big one in 2023, beating Sheffield United in the final. In the leasing.com trophy, it was dominated initially by the teams in the top tier that didn't have a League Cup, being Herefordshire and Northumberland. But in the latest season, we had 2 London second tier teams making it instead. Two of the teams that got promoted to the Premier Division, Barnet and Welling, both ended up in the final, and Barnet did it in the end. So well done to them. Hereford and Tweedmouth being the other winners. And that's the Legacy edition. So let's quickly have a look through the tournaments that have happened. We'll start with the African Nations Cup and go through the group stage there. So going through in the group stage, Cameroon, Algeria, Mali, Egypt, Guinea and Sudan, Nigeria, Ghana and Morocco, Zambia, Tunisia, Ivory Coast, Burkina Faso, Gabon, Senegal and DR Congo all making it through to the second round. And in that second round, Senegal beat Mali, Guinea beat Tunisia, Burkina Faso beat DR Congo on penalties, Ghana beat Sudan, Cameroon beat Zambia 4-0, Morocco beat Algeria, Nigeria beat Egypt, and Ivory Coast beat Gabon. Then we got to the quarter-final stage, which saw Cameroon beat Burkina Faso, Ivory Coast beat Senegal, Morocco beat Guinea, and Nigeria eliminate Ghana on penalties after a 1-1 draw. Semi-finals, we saw Nigeria beat Morocco on 3-1, and Ivory Coast beat Cameroon 4-0, and then in the final, Ivory Coast beat Nigeria on penalties after a 0-0 draw. And if we see, that was in Sierra Leone. They haven't changed that bit yet. So that's what's happened there in the North American Gold Cup, which has just finished. This is why this is the reason why we've gone to August, because we had to wait quite a while for this tournament to finish. We see Mexico and Martinique making it from Group A, Jamaica and Guadeloupe from Group B. Group C saw Canada and Guyana, and USA and Trinidad and Tobago. So 4 Caribbean teams all making the 5 Caribbean teams making the quarterfinals, which is quite impressive. And 3 of them went out. With Martinique beating Trinidad and Tobago, Mexico beating Guyana 5-0, then USA putting 8 past Guadeloupe, and Canada beating Jamaica 2-1. In the semi-finals, we had Mexico beat USA 2-1, Canada beat Martinique 4-0, and finally in the final, Mexico beat Canada 3-0 in Costa Rica, I believe that one is. Yes. One other competition before we go to this one last nice little odds and sods that I want to have a look at, and that's the Confederations Cup, which is since we changed it, it's for teams outside of FIFA. In the latest one, we can see here, Group A, Crimea and Reunion, Group B, Guadeloupe and Northern Mariana, Group C, Martinique and Zanzibar, and Group D, Bonaire and French Guiana. Their quarterfinal was Crimea against Northern Mariana, French Guiana 2-1 win over Zanzibar, Martinique beat Reunion, and Guadeloupe beat Bonaire. Clicking the headlines there, that's not going to help. Semi-finals, Martinique beat Crimea 2-0, Guadeloupe beat French Guiana on penalties after a 2-2 draw in the final, which is the same final we've had for the last 3 seasons. Martinique beating Guadeloupe 2-0, and if you look here, Martinique have won it every single time, which probably makes up for their big 5-0 loss to Mexico in the quarterfinals of the North American Gold Cup. Guadeloupe, a runners-up position, probably not making up for that 8-0 hammering against USA. Right, before we go, I'm going to spend a bit of time looking at who are managers of, or the managers of certain teams. Norway, currently managed by Gordon Strachan. And then if we have a look at Poland, currently managed by Alan Pardew and previously by Wande Ramos. Some interesting managerial appointments there. Russia, Steve McLaren is currently the Russian manager for the European Championship qualifiers. And in Spain, Jose Mourinho finally got his big international job with Spain. So that's fun. In Scotland, these are some very interesting ones in Scotland. Braehead managed by former Crystal Palace and Marseille goalkeeper Steve Mandanda. Just taken over there. What about Clacknacuddin? Why, they're managed by Wolves midfielder, current Wolves midfielder, João Moutinho. In his first managerial role, I believe. It might not be. Gretna 2008. Why, David Luiz, the former Arsenal centre-back, and, well, he went to Norwich in the game, didn't he? Well, now he's Gretna 2008 manager. Then we have Thornton Hibs, who are managed by Christian Fuchs, the Leicester left-back. So a nice managerial role for him. It's not his first one either. He's been around in the management thing, managing Harborough, Corby, Ardley, and now Thornton Hibs in Scotland. And then finally in Scotland, Vale of Leven, managed by Adrian Mutu, the disgraced former Chelsea player. Now England, we've got a few in England. Hopefully they won't take too long. Help if I click the right one there. Alresford Town, managed by Gary Megson. Remember him? He's still going, apparently, at Alresford. While Bolton Wanderers, Mark Hughes has taken over there after Dean Saunders left after 14 days as caretaker manager. We also have, in England, Bristol Rovers. Tim Sherwood's gone there. They're going to get relegated. And then we're doing these in alphabetical order, clearly. Chalfont St Peter. They were managed by Fernando Llorente, who's currently unemployed, but previously at Chalfont St Peter. He's moved into management. We also have Colchester United, managed by Tony Pulis. He's still going. And he's John McGreal there, former manager. He went on to manage Pulis' old team. Well, in fact, he's currently at Pulis' old team, Crystal Palace. After Roy Hodgson retired some time ago, they appointed Ryan Lowe, and now they've appointed John McGreal. Next up, Holbrook Sports. They're managed by Shane Long. That Shane Long, former Reading, Southampton, blah blah blah, forward. Middlesbrough, they had Gennaro Gattuso in charge for a few years, but he's just been sacked. So I don't know who Jesse Marsh is, but he's an American apparently. Was at Salzburg, so decent manager for them maybe, but Gattuso couldn't do it. Can Marsh? Clicking the wrong buttons here. Peterborough Northern Star, the team that have just made the Empire League, they've just appointed Chris Wilder as their manager, so I'm expecting good things in the Empire League and in the league for them. We might be seeing them a little further in the tournament than we thought. In Shaftesbury, they're managed by former England cricketer Steve Harmison. It is him because looking at his milestones, his first position was a position he really held, which was manager of Ashington, and he's gone on to manage quite a few teams, it seems, but he's currently with Shaftesbury. Sheffield United, they've lost Chris Wilder. Now they've got Rafa Benitez, which is a decent manager for them to replace Chris Wilder with. And we've also got Staines Town. They've got Harry Kewell. Remember him when we first started? He was at one place. Now he is at another. Tottenham Hotspur. They didn't get Jose Mourinho in this game because he joined a little later on. Instead, they've had Pavel Happel, and current manager Frank Verkeuteren. So interesting signing for them in charge. West Ham have Chris Hurst, and who did they take him from? They took him from Stratford. Is it all going to start going wrong for Stratford? And finally, Wolverhampton Wanderers have just replaced Nuno Espirito Santo with Paul Lambert. What's wrong with them? Anyway, that's it for this edition. Next time we will check out the Champions League draws and have a look at all those transfer window signings that have happened. There's a few interesting ones, that's for sure. So until then, like, subscribe, and rock on.